All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep on something pretty fascinating, I think. Um, Cognitive biases.
Yeah, these like mental shortcuts our brains take, but they don't always lead us in the right direction, right? Sometimes they're helpful.
Right, exactly. They're like efficient, but sometimes a little too efficient, maybe.
Yeah, and they can really mess with how we see things, how we make decisions, all sorts of judgments. We've got some great research lined up to kind of unpack all this. A lot of it comes from cognitive science, which is basically the study of, how our minds work, perception, memory, reasoning, the whole shebang.
Because it was like our brains are trying to be super efficient, right? Like trying to process all this information coming at us constantly.
Exactly, tons of information all the time. So it develops these shortcuts, these biases to make things easier, but sometimes it kind of skips a step or two in the logic department.
Oh, I see. So that's where things can go a bit sideways, right?
Right.
Like we make these assumptions or judgments without really thinking things through.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is how much our culture plays into all of this. Even something as simple as what you wear to the beach can be totally different depending on where you are in the world.
Oh yeah, totally. Like here, in the West, it's all about like less is more, right?
Yeah.
Bikinis, board shorts, that kind of thing. And even then, you see these trends like what's in style changes.
Right, exactly. But if you go somewhere like, let's say Abu Dhabi, things are completely different. Cultural and religious norms mean people dress much more modestly, even at the beach, more coverage.
So it's the same activity, right? Going to the beach, swimming, but totally different ideas about what's appropriate to wear.
Exactly. And that's where cognitive dissonance can come in. When we see something that clashes with our own norms, it can create this kind of mental discomfort. And instead of just recognizing it as a cultural difference, sometimes we jump to these biased judgments.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's talk about some specific biases then.
Yeah.
I think one everyone's probably heard of is confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias, it's huge. It's basically the tendency to just, gravitate toward information that already fits with what we believe and ignore anything that doesn't.
It's like our brain has these blinders on.
Right.
Like we only see what we want to see.
It really is. It's like a mental filter.
Mhm.
The stuff that agrees with our existing beliefs gets amplified, and anything that challenges them just gets tuned out. We're naturally more trusting of information that confirms our views and super skeptical of anything that contradicts them.
And this plays out everywhere, but it's especially noticeable in politics, right?
Yeah.
Like people stick to their news sources that align with their views and just end up in these echo chambers.
Oh, absolutely. You see it all the time. And that just makes it harder to have these productive, open-minded conversations. To really break free from that, you've got to actively seek out diverse perspectives, engage with opinions that differ from your own, really critically evaluate everything you're taking in.
Okay, so moving on, another interesting one is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, yeah, that's a fun one. This is where things get a little tricky. It's basically the mismatch between how competent we think we are at something and how competent we actually are.
Oh, so it's like someone thinking they're a way better singer than they actually are, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And it often happens when people are, not very skilled at something. They tend to overestimate their abilities because they lack this, it's kind of metacognitive ability. They're not even aware of what they don't know.
Okay, that makes sense. So on the flip side then, someone who's really good at something might actually underestimate their abilities.
You got it. They might assume everyone else is at their level, so they don't see themselves as particularly special or skilled. Like, have you ever noticed how most people think they're an above average driver? Statistically, that just can't be true. Right.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that before.
Hmm.
So how do you, like, combat that then? If you're either
That's-
overestimating or underestimating yourself?
Well, feedback is huge. Seek out constructive criticism, ask people you trust for honest opinions, and then really take time to self-reflect. Look at your work objectively. Try to assess your strengths and weaknesses without, too much bias.
All right, good advice. So let's move on to another one, negativity bias.
Okay, negativity bias. This one's kind of ingrained in us, evolutionarily speaking. It's our tendency to focus more on negative information than positive information, even if they're equally strong.
So, like, if someone gives you a bunch of compliments about something, but then one person says one negative thing, that's the thing you remember.
Exactly. It probably comes from, our ancestors needing to quickly identify threats to survive.
Yeah.
But in our modern world, it can really weigh us down. One negative comment can stick with us way longer than a bunch of positive ones.
Right. It can really impact your self-esteem, even when you're doing well overall. So how do we deal with that?
Well, being aware of it is a big first step. Then you can consciously try to focus more on the positive, really savor those good moments and accomplishments. Try to reframe negative thoughts into something more constructive. And when you do get negative feedback, try to analyze it objectively instead of letting it get you down emotionally.
Okay, so last one on our list, loss aversion bias.
Loss aversion, this one's all about how much we hate losing something. Like the pain of losing $10 feels way worse than the pleasure of finding $10.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. So how does that play out in our everyday lives?
Well, think about it. It can keep people stuck in jobs they hate or relationships that aren't working just because they're terrified of the loss, even if they're unhappy.
And marketers definitely use this one to their advantage.
Oh, yeah. All those limited time offers, the whole fear of missing out thing, it's all about playing on that loss aversion. You feel like you're losing something valuable if you don't act now, even if you don't really need or want the product.
Right, right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Confirmation bias, the Dunning-Kruger effect, negativity bias, and loss aversion. These are all pretty powerful forces shaping our thinking, huh?
They really are. And the thing is, they're often operating unconsciously, so we're not even aware of how they're influencing us.
So just being aware of them, that's got to be half the battle, right?
Absolutely. Once you recognize these biases, you can start making more conscious, more rational decisions. You can see things more objectively, and you're less likely to get manipulated by, marketing tactics or those echo chambers we talked about.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess the big question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Now that we know about these biases, how do we actually apply that to our lives?
Well, think about it. Understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect can help you approach your goals more realistically. Assess your skills honestly and seek out the help you need. Being aware of negativity bias can change how you process feedback, focusing on the positive and not letting one negative comment derail you. And by challenging confirmation bias, you can start to form more balanced opinions, really considering all sides of an issue.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to think about. I guess, like anything, awareness is the first step, right?
Huh.
And then it's up to us to actually put that awareness into practice.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. So for everyone listening, here's a little something to chew on as you go about your day. Now that you've got a glimpse into these mental shortcuts, these biases we all have, what assumptions might you start questioning in your own thinking? What conclusions might you be jumping to without even realizing it?
Yeah, food for thought, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.